Don't cross the streams.
Why?
It would be bad.
I'm fuzzy on the whole good-bad thing. What do you mean bad?
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and this week in Stupid Internet Feuds, we had Tom King just decide to insult Dean Cain for what appeared to be no real reason that I could really see. And with me to talk about that is my good friend just back from his vacation, Perch from Comics by Perch.
Hey there, how you doing? It's mostly good to be back with you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully you were able to keep up with everything that was going on this very stupid internet feud.
Yeah, I did. I mean, this was the stupid internet feud is right. I mean, this one was just at its surface, it's why. Why did any of this happen? Why did Tom King decide to weigh in on this? It's like, does this help the comic? Does it help his point of view? Does it help anything? And the answer is no. This was a super dumb feud.
Yeah, so I guess Dean Cain, who's a known conservative, was on, I think it was a Fox News show, and they were kind of talking about that Times article where they want to kind of relate superheroes in with cops, so therefore they need to be changed or they need to be canceled kind of thing. And he ended up making a statement. It wasn't really even part of what the interview was about, but he did say, in today's climate as Superman, I wouldn't be able to say truth, justice, in the American way. Obviously, he was the first minority man, the only minority man that I know of that has played Superman on the big screen or the small screen. Mm-hmm. So he, it would make sense that he would bring something like that up. And he's got a point there, Superman doesn't exactly say truth, justice in the American way very often in the comics anymore. Kind of represents more like the protector of Earth rather than American sensibilities anymore. And that goes with a lot of things. Captain America isn't exactly the most patriotic character in the world right now. I remember when they did the G.I. Joe live action movie. I remember distinctly that it was quite clear that they were no longer real American heroes. Like it's something that's obviously happening within entertainment and pop culture.
Yeah, for sure. And part of it is just a desire to reach a global audience. There's part of it to say, we want to make money in other markets and we want to have this character be more universal. So we want to expand beyond America. And I get that part. I mean, that's just business and it's wanting to cast as wide a net as possible. But outside that, I mean, Superman is an American hero, and his point was correct in that it's the changing sensibilities where things like patriotism and respect for a country and those kind of comments are just not in fashion anymore, and they're just not. People have no tolerance for it. It's almost like you have to be ashamed. You have to put that stuff down, and that was the point he was making. Was just that the basic things like patriotism and loyalty are considered negatives now by a certain segment, certainly a segment that produces a lot of shows.
Yeah, and you could see it in one perspective that he was somewhat defending the comic book industry, which has a healthy investment and need for people to have interest in superheroes and superheroes doing heroic things and standing for something. He was kind of protecting the industry from a certain point of view. And then Tom King decides to just chime in with just the weirdest insult. And here, let me bring up the tweet. I don't want to misquote this one. And he says, "Motherfucker, I put it in a comic this year talking about truth, justice, in the American way," which is also weird because, the example that he gives, Dean Cain was saying as Superman, I couldn't say truth, justice in the American way. And the example that he gave that Tom King wrote, Superman is not saying truth, justice in the American way. A soldier is saying, I still believe in truth. I still believe in justice. I still believe in the American way. And I believe in Superman.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't responding. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, Dean Cain was saying, as that character, this iconic character, this character everybody knows, I can't say these things. And Tom King weighs in, going from 0 to 60 again for no reason. With the motherfucker again. Why flex like that? And then he proceeds to point out an example that is not Superman. It's a soldier. So it's like you didn't respond to the comment. You said you put something in a comic. Cool. That wasn't what Dean Cain was saying in the first place. So you wandered in and you started a little fight for really no reason. Was he hoping for? I mean, I guess he's trying to appeal to his audience, who's going to say, good for you taking on the evil Dean Cain. It's a weird fight.
Well, yeah, I think it's internet clout. A lot of people want internet clout these days. And of course, as an entertainer, It will certainly give you some reach on social media. Maybe some new people will find your Twitter account. Maybe realize that you're the writer of Mr. Miracle, or not Mr. Miracle, Strange Adventures right now, and you got a Batman Catwoman comic coming out. But it certainly doesn't portray him in a positive light. And when, like I said, when you read the page, you're like, well, it's not exactly Superman saying those words. You just put the words in the comic, but you didn't have Superman say them. You had another character.
Yeah, and I mean, let's say even if he had Superman saying this, it doesn't matter. I think it's part of the way people argue on the internet now. It's Dean Cain was making a point. You could argue that point exactly, which was, you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to say these things. Our sensibilities have changed as a country. You may be in favor of that, you may be against it, but instead you choose to fight by saying, hey, I put these words in a page, ignoring kind of the original point. It wasn't Superman saying it, and it just feels like somebody wanting to pick a fight, not actually prove or help anything. And that's the problem with all this. It's like right now, why pick a fight? Why now? What's the value?
Well, we do learn that in a few minutes' time. Dean Cain actually somewhat takes the high road here, and he says, "Well, kudos to you." Speaking to Tom King on Twitter, I stand corrected, and I'm glad you did. What comic is that? Showing some interest, obviously in the comic. Maybe he wants to read it. And also he comes back with the motherfucker part of your tweet was not necessary at all. But if it makes you feel tough, that's okay. You're kind of coming back to like, hey, I'm glad you did this, but calling me a motherfucker was pretty rude. And then we get to the actual point of him calling him a motherfucker. And he says, the motherfucker was an insult because you used your platform to discourage people from wearing masks, which will cost lives, the opposite of what Superman would do. I don't know if I'm tough, but I did fight for my country overseas and didn't just wear a cape in front of a camera. Obviously insulting Dean Cain. I served in the CIA, and I was forward deployed where you were just in front of a camera. Although Dean Cain was a college football player, so I'm sure he was a little bit tough with everything we know about CTE now. But then when he posts the picture of the thing that Dean Cain did that was so outrageous that he had to call him a motherfucker, and it's Dean Cain, he's wearing a mask on a plane, and he does a dad joke.
Yeah.
And he says, spent most of the day on planes breathing my own CO2 because he's got the mask on. And then he lays out the dad joke finale. I think I may be Dane Bramaged. But now, is it a funny joke? It's certainly timely. If it's funny, that's your own prerogative. But he certainly was not saying you should not wear masks or was even condoning the public to take their masks off. He was just making a joke about a timely thing that's happening with people. People are being required to wear masks to fly on planes or even be out in public right now. Yeah. Like, I don't see where that rises to motherfucker level.
No, it was somebody picking a fight with somebody else, and it came across so transparent. And then when Tom King did come back and want to flex about, I'm a tough guy, I have my service. I mean, if you find yourself having to say that, you're not a tough guy. People respect people certainly who's served, like yourself, like many. But you don't need to walk around wearing it like a chip on your shoulder. And that's how this comes across. It comes across like. And Dean Cain, in multiple instances, tried to kind of defer. I think was way more gracious to Tom King than Tom King was being back. And it just struck me as King woke up, decided, I want to start a fight. I want to try and get a crowd behind me cheering me on for taking down this guy who's often on Fox News and may have politics I don't like. And I don't agree with all Dean Cain's politics, but that's kind of irrelevant. You don't go out and just start picking fights with people because they root for a different team than you. That makes you an asshole. And that's how Tom King came across. He just came across as extremely petty. This is the kind of stuff that when people get upset or irritated with comic creators on social media, kind of losing their tempers and doing crazy stuff, this is the kind of stuff they're talking about. It doesn't help the comics. It divides their audience, and it's pointless. No value was served other than Tom King got some people to like him for, haha, you took down the guy on Fox News. It's like, a better way to fight your fight is to put out great comics and win people over your ideas. That would be a good idea. But I think that whole idea may elude Tom King on a number of fronts.
Well, I think it eludes a lot of people. There were a bunch of comic book news sites were all praising Tom King, the man that took on Dean Cain on Twitter. I think there was an article in Bleeding Cool and Newsarama now that it's on Gamer Radar or whatever it is, and I think CBR and Screen Rant, like all of them had an article on it. It was just so silly. It was like, is this really news? I mean, this is a stupid internet fight. And if anyone looked kind of stupid in the end, I think it was Tom King, especially with the thing he was really mad about. He was like, you promoted people not to wear masks. It was like, hey, listen, buddy, I don't know if you noticed this. There's a discussion going on in this country about wearing masks. And there was a large group of people all around the nation that were kind of not wearing masks while they were in mass and close together. And they were somewhat encouraged to do that. Are you going to go out there and call anyone who supported those protests a motherfucker because they weren't encouraging social distancing and mask wearing rules?
Yeah, not at all. It's just it's tribalism. It's here's a side I can try and dunk on. He comes out the gate angry. It's not a clever attack. It's not a clever dunk. It's just let's have a fight. That's what he did. And again, it had no point. The idea of I'm mad because you won't wear masks is a red herring. It had nothing to do with masks. It had to do with the fact that you have a a conservative that you thought you wanted to score some points against. You didn't want to go after somebody more popular because that could backlash and you get a bunch of people against you. So you pick a kind of a B or C list celebrity, and you decide to throw a little tantrum. And unfortunately, that's how it felt. It felt like I'm angry this morning and I want to throw a little tantrum, which ironically is kind of the opposite of Superman. If you want to stand yourself up as I know the character, I'm heroic, I understand the values of Superman. Superman would not go on Twitter and pick some person that he disagreed with politically and start calling him a motherfucker. I just that's the opposite of Superman. It just shows you as kind of petty and stupid.
It's so weird. I guess Dean Cain, because he is a conservative, but you would almost think because it's very in vogue to cast racially diverse people into more notably white superhero character roles. Dean Cain in some respects was a groundbreaker as an Asian American that was playing Superman on television, a pretty high profile television show at that. It would seem like it would be a glass ceiling, opportunity where people would be kind of celebrating him, but because he has I guess wrong think tendencies that we don't appreciate what the man did and went out there and with the opportunity that he was able to take and run with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of stuff angers people the most when one side believes that they've got people who should be on their side by whatever reason, skin color or politics or belief, whatever. And it turns out they have a different view. That seems to make them the angriest of all. You see it in some of these protests now, and you see maybe somebody who's African-American who's saying, wait, let's not burn down the city. Like those people take an immense amount of hatred. And it's just a shame that's kind of how people's psychology works and everything else. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to just why. Why did you choose to invest your time in doing this? Tom King, you could have just said nothing. Nobody would have paid attention, but you brought it into the spotlight. You helped bring all these articles, and you just looked like you're picking a fight with somebody for no reason. And you had the right answer. It gave him internet clout. It got a bunch of people to kind of cheer him on and clap back and everything else. And that's what it was all about. It gave him some brief momentary junk food like attention. And now maybe he could go and slink back and work on the revival of Watchmen or whatever he's doing and move on. But it's just pointless. It's a distraction. It doesn't help comics. It doesn't help Superman. It doesn't help anybody. And it just makes people look very, very petty and nothing gets solved. Nobody is going to look at those tweets and say, man, I'm going to wear a mask now. No, nobody's going to do that. So what was the point?
I guess, like I said, yeah, it's internet clout. Got to go dunk on the man that the wrong thinker that was being interviewed. And like I said in the beginning, he had a valid point. And in some respects, he was defending the industry, which Tom King kind of relies on to make income for his family, and not only just comic books, but Tom King, I believe, is writing the screenplay for the upcoming New Gods movie. So for these characters to still be in vogue and be important and make a lot of money moving forward, you might not want everyone out there trashing the characters or maybe bringing them down, because we've seen what darker versions of these characters can do when the DCEU initially launched, and people didn't like them. People like the more hopeful versions of the characters that are more heroic in nature than the kind of dark and gritty versions that are in today's society. With some exceptions there. I think, Batman and standalone films works fine, but it certainly doesn't work with Superman and a lot of the other heroic characters.
No, it doesn't. So it feels like another guy who's choosing to kind of lean into the worst aspects of Twitter and fights as opposed to practicing his craft. I mean, if you're Tom King right now with all the kind of entertainment issues, the comic industry struggling, the movie industry struggling, I mean, he's writing this screenplay. There's no guarantee that New Gods gets made. That's a reach for that company. And if there's cutbacks and the need to conserve cash and just put out, very, very core solid properties, which, for all we know, AT&T will likely go to, they're going to want to lean into Superman and Flash and Green Lantern and Batman, and New Gods is not going to be high on their list. So rather than go out there and with your fists up all the time and want to start fights, maybe have some humility and try and, if you care about people not getting sick, maybe ways, promote wearing masks and social distancing and all that kind of stuff without calling Dean Cain a motherfucker. There's a million better ways to use your time. But instead, this was absolutely an attempt to gain some internet clout and just get some people to cheer him on. So congratulations, you prioritized getting likes over things like unity, getting along, and health. So way to go, Tom King.
Yes, he prioritized the best characteristics of Bizarro Superman rather than the real one. Yeah,
absolutely. It was a good promotion for Brainiac, Metallo. Well, maybe not Brainiac because it was stupid, but Luthor, way to go. You really stood up for Superman's villains there. Congratulations.
Well, all right, Perch. I think we talked about this one enough. Like I said, just a stupid internet feud. I don't even think Dean Cain realizes he was in an internet feud. I think he was just responding while Tom King, thought he was going 12 rounds with the champ.
Yeah, no, I don't think Dean Cain really knows or cares, frankly. I mean, Tom King does not have the name either. I mean, it's baffling again, and it was especially confusing when Dean Cain came back and said, "Hey, I stand corrected." He was trying to hold the door open for maybe it to go into a peaceful way, and instead, Dean Cain wanted to come back and brag about his service, and just a weird back and forth from a very, very petty man.
I agree. And well, I'm glad that you're back from your vacation, and hopefully we can talk about comics a little bit more in the days ahead.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter @Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.